Hello, everyone. You've made it to what I hope will be the best 30 minutes of your Tuesday. For those of you that are tuning in for the replay, I hope it's the best 30 minutes of whatever day that this is for you. We are about to change the way that you think about detection engineering and why we believe it's the most important function in SecOps, why we've bet everything on it, and how we're proving firsthand that it's a true game changer, especially for organizations with the largest and most complex of environments. So if you happen to be one of those, this one is going to be for you. As far as what you can expect from the session and what we're all on about, is deploying detections at speed on cost-effective storage and compute platforms that actually scale. And we've been able to make that possible through our super unique and decoupled approach, which as of January 25th, 2025, is now officially integrated with the powerhouse that is the Databricks platform. Now, when we think about security's biggest challenge, it's not about you can start rolling your eyes now, the constantly evolving and sophisticated threat landscape. And it's not just about the threats. It's about this problem that security has with data and with data fragmentation, right? Getting the right logs at the right time in the right format, that can be a huge uphill political budgetary battle. In fact, according to our latest 2025 State of Detection Engineering report, a solid 60% of organizations reported that they don't even have the data that they need to meet their detection requirements. So let's get real about this flying blind situation here, because it's a real crisis waiting to happen, right? So there's that. But there's also some of these other things here, right? It's how painfully slow and manual detection engineering can be, right? So if you're struggling with the quality of your detections, if you're struggling with the ability to keep up with the pace and complexity of your environment, right? Like the way that our founders did, they had the biggest security budget in the world, and yet breaches were still taking down systems, right? So if this is your world, right, you're not alone. We've been there. And that is what brings us here today, right? With the breakthrough of this first of its kind concept that Anvilogic has. It's this AI-based detection engineering platform that's built for enterprise SOC by a collective 100 years worth of SOC experience. So if you haven't heard of us before, hi, we're so happy that you're here. We're going to show you how Anvilogic for Databricks brings together a promise of SIEM that's 25 years in the making. But first, I showed you a little bit ahead of time. I want to kick off the webinar with a little bit of an icebreaker in case the James Bond Oscars tribute didn't do it for you. I'm going to launch a poll here. You're going to see in the chat, pull up. I want everyone to select their biggest security data wrangling challenge. What phrase best describes that? I'm going to cue back our wonderful music here. Right. So we can close the poll now to cash in the results. There we go. Looks like we've got the most popular log ingestion pain for sure. The cost, absolutely. Storage limits and query speed, fun fact. I ran a 1-week search on the QRadar aerial database. It took about 35 minutes to bring back. And also alert quality fatigue. So definitely on the same pain point language here. Let me close the poll. So again, if these are your challenges, you're going to really want to hang on tight these next 30 minutes, because this is exactly the right webinar for you. So Peter, now that we're all warmed up here and on the same pain point language, let's get into the real deal, right? Tell us a little bit about you. You come from the SIEM world, right? You've been in the PM game for quite some time. You saw firsthand the market evolution of it all, right? Leave behind the traditional monolithic archaic architecture that have been proved pretty expensive to scale. So tell us about you, what it is we have here, why we've built what we've built.
Sure. Well, to tell you a little bit about myself, I work out of Austin, Texas, and I've only been here at Anvilogic for a few months, so please don't hurt me. Prior to working at Anvilogic, I worked for companies like IBM, HP, and CA. I was in a role collecting acronyms for a while there. But then I found my true love in security, and I worked in the SIM space for the last several years. One of the things that really drew me here was how impressed I was with how Anvilogic addresses some of the biggest shortcomings in SIM. Many security providers want you to send them all of your data and dangle the carrot of a full stack ecosystem, but then they deliver a jack of all trades experience, the kind of experience that you're talking about in these poll results. So for example, you talked about cost. It's far too expensive to send all of your data to a SIM. So you end up doing trade-offs. You leave out some valuable data, and that creates gaps that malicious actors can exploit.
No, you're absolutely right. I feel like we don't need to tell anybody on this webinar that the rate of the data is increasing year over year. Shout out to Jesse Scott and Raja for these slides. They've been an absolute pleasure to work with the Databricks teams over there. But you're right, this full stack ecosystem that you referred to, it's just not keeping up with the scale and the innovation that's needed to not just protect the organizations, but to feel confident about doing that. And Databricks is way, way beyond its years, especially in the data and AI space.
Yeah, exactly. The pace of innovation in SIM has been lagging. I mean, what are providers really doing to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the SOC? Anvilogic is moving at a pace I haven't seen anyone do before, with an approach that I haven't seen anyone in the market take. So when it came to partnering with Databricks, it was really a no-brainer. They're a fantastic company with a fantastic product suite focused on data analytics and AI, just like we are. They also have a special focus on security. So we really go together like chocolate and peanut butter. And together, I think we can provide a solution that's much more cost effective than shipping all of your data to a SIM.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. The Databricks is so well positioned in the data and AI space. They're helping everyone become data and AI companies and helping everyone crush their goals, right? With AI as a means to get there. So I'm so excited to showcase, the value that we deliver to our joint customers. So let's get into that. The what, right? What is it that our customers or joint customers get from this partnership?
Well, primarily they get three things. First, Anvilogic supports multiple SIMs and data repositories. So you can perform comprehensive detection wherever your data is without having to expensively ingest it into yet another security platform. So for example, you can use our solution with Splunk, with Databricks, with Azure, all at the same time. We've been able to save our customers an average of more than 80% by enabling them to choose the most cost-effective mix of data platforms. Secondly, we provide comprehensive detection engineering tools. These help you easily develop and deploy new detections without having to be a seasoned expert with the assistance of our Copilot. You can even build complex correlations across platforms. So events detected in Databricks data and events detected in Splunk data, even alerts detected in third-party alerts, can be all analyzed and correlated together, resulting in a more robust and accurate detection with less noise. Finally, we help you really understand what coverage and gaps that you have. Not in general, based only on MITRE TTPs, but customized based on your applications, your threat profiles, your log data. And we don't stop there. Our AI tools, fueled by our Forge research team, automatically and intelligently make recommendations to improve your detections. And those recommendations can be deployed instantly with a single click.
We're building detections, building complex detections, right? In minutes, looks like on Databricks. So I think we're gonna have to prove that out in the demo. But I love this hybrid correlative narrative, right? How do we achieve this? Tell us a little bit about architecture. Let's talk all the architecture.
Sure. Anvilogic integrates seamlessly with Databricks. We leverage its advanced tools like Delta Live Tables and PySpark to process your security data. So we also partner with companies like Cribble, to help you easily connect your data sources to Databricks. So you're not left out on your own trying to figure out how to get your data in there to connect to it. And like I mentioned earlier, we could integrate with a number of other platforms this way as well. So that includes SIMs like Splunk to other platforms like Azure Log Analytics. Then you can use tools provided by Anvilogic to triage the resulting alerts. Or you can orchestrate investigation and response in your SIM, your SOAR, your case management solution. Our goal is to adapt to the way that you work rather than forcing you to adapt to our tool.
It looks like your source inbox just got a whole lot better, a whole lot upgraded, not just in the quantity of the alerts, right, with this reduction in alert volume, but like the quality of the alerts that get there.
Oh, definitely. Why don't we take a look under the covers at a more detailed view of our architecture with Databricks? I know it looks kind of complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. You just use the Anvilogic SaaS platform to manage your detection engineering, and then the system deploys those detections into Databricks. At the same time, we're using Delta Live tables to normalize whatever data you connect to it, and then scan that data for results. The integration actually only takes minutes to deploy. Ask me, because I've been testing it a lot lately, and we can start scanning data right away.
I just wanted to point out like this decoupled approach that I keep referring to, where decoupling what was once this monolithic unit where all of its storage, compute, and analytics and detection engineering and querying, all that used to take place in the same place, right? And you could still very much do that, but with us, right, it's about decoupling the detection engineering, the detection logic, right, and being able to leverage this cost-effective Lakehouse performance as that storage layer and bringing this DE on top of such an architecture, making detection engineering as agile as possible, as agile as the adversaries. I honestly can't think of a better pairing for modern SecOps. Like it just might be that golden ticket.
Well, before you get carried away, why don't we show these fine folks the platform for real?
That's always my problem. All right. So we got the quick 101, right? What this partnership is. I do want to see it all in action. For everyone here, we also want it to be a hands-on experience. So you'll get a chance to follow along and build detection and connect this logic across platforms, optimize our alerting, all on top of Databricks. So we're going to be posting the interactive product tour in the chat. But what I do want you guys to do is just kind of watch Peter go through the live instance, the live environment, and so that you know kind of how the flow would go, and then you can go off on your own and explore on it later. So keep it loaded on your tab, right? But Peter, why don't you take it from here? Show us what innovation and detection engineering on Databricks looks like.
All right, great. Let's get into the platform then. There we go. You should be seeing the Anvilogic homepage. Yes?
We are.
All right, let's start with the detection armory then. So as you can see, we have more than almost 2,400 detections out of the box, with more coming all the time, including individual threat identifiers. These result in events of interest or EOIs, and then correlated threat scenarios and macros. We'll talk more about macros in a minute. Talk about all of these in a minute. You can choose which detections to deploy. You can create custom detections, and of course, you can modify the out-of-the-box detections as well. Anvilogic also provides a number of tracking metrics to help you understand your coverage, plus threat intelligence and recommendations, and we'll come back to those in a minute too. But first, let's take a look at how easy it is to build a new detection using our low-code interface, or as Alex likes to call it, the detection as code builder. She's always inventing new labels for everything. So let's click on new threat identifier, and we'll create one here. And we'll use Databricks, of course. So the builder uses a drag and drop model. So let's start by selecting what data we want to look at. In this case, we've got some EDR logs, so let's pick that. And I mentioned macros earlier. So let me just show you that really quick. This data set that we're looking at is actually the result of some macros. Macros can be used to parse and map data in different formats into a common schema that our rules understand, which is loosely based on OCSF. They can also be used to unify logs from different sources into one view. So in this case, for example, we're merging EDR logs from CrowdStrike and other sources together. So that way we don't have to specify all the different logs in one place. If we add new sources, take sources away, we don't have to change our rule definitions later. It's all just pointing at the one view. So anyhow, let's go back to the rule here. So now I need to drag the code block over. I need to write the rule logic. I know as a security analyst that I want to look for some suspicious PowerShell scripts. And I know that one way that malicious actors use PowerShell scripts is by using invoked expressions, but I don't know how to code that in Databricks. Fortunately, Anvilogic's Monty Copilot can help with that. So let's go and ask Monty Copilot, how do I search for PowerShell events with invoked expressions? All right. And it already knows that I'm looking for Databricks, so it's going to return it in the right format for that. And so it came back right away. Let's copy that and paste that in the code block here. And then before we go any further, let's test that. So let's click on Find Events.
The real deal.
Yep.
Huh?
Okay, here we go. So we've got some results, and you can see these processes here do include the invoked expressions. So IEX there. Now, I don't know if these should be considered suspicious or malicious the way that they're formatted. So we can ask Monty Copilot that as well. So let's just do that. And so Monty will go out and look at a combination of previous results from your environment and also look at some external tools. Some of these are out of the box and some of these can be added, with your customization. So for example, it's going to check with VirusTotal and other places
Just
to
for our
see what's going
listeners,
on.
they don't need to add in their own authentication tokens or their user accounts or IDs. Like this is all pre-embedded in the platform on the back end, right?
That's right. It's exactly right. So after doing all that checking, does an analysis and comes back with a breakdown of the command that I sent to it. What does it all mean? What does it do? Are there any malicious indicators in it? What do the tools tell us about it? Are there any potential risks, so on, and give us a kind of a conclusion and recommendation. In this case, it is telling us that this is potentially malicious. So this seems like a reasonable rule to be implementing. So let's go back to the rule. And I'll save this. The next thing I need to do is I need to put a description in. So let's do that really quick. And you can use variable substitution here. So I can say the actual host name, the actual user. This is what the security analyst is going to see if this fires an event. Let's save that. And before I go ahead and turn this into a threat identifier, I do want to show you that in the background, the system has been silently turning this into Python expression. This is one of the advantages of using Databricks. We can run this using PySpark, which is much more efficient than executing it as just a SQL expression. So this is taking everything that I just wrote, turning it into nice Python automatically behind the scenes. So I don't have to know Python. I don't have to know SQL. The system is doing all of that for me. All right, so let's go ahead and save this as a threat identifier. And we'll give it a name here, PowerShell with invoked expressions. This is going to have a use case of behavioral, since this is malicious activity. We want to do some correlation on it. This is endpoint for sure. We'll leave the description blank, but normally I'd put something in there. We'll pick a use case category. So let's just pick malware. And then we've got this cool tool, auto compute, and this will fill in a bunch of the other labels and so on to help me identify what kind of threat identifier this is. And it does it based on some of the selections I've already made, plus the rule itself. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll hit save. And so now we've got a potential threat identifier here. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm not going to do it in detail because I'll show you a fully filled out threat identifier here in just a second. So let's just put this in test mode, and we'll tell it that this is coming from EDR logs and save it. All right, so now we've got a threat identifier with the rule that works on Databricks, and I'm just going to go ahead and deploy it. So boom, we'll hit deploy. You see that it's automatically recommending how often to run this and things like that. You can change that, customize it however you like. Deploy, and that's it. Now it's deployed, and actually by the time this dialog box finishes recommending some other things for me to work on, it's deployed. If I come back in here and reload the page, you will see that it is already deployed. So this is already live in your environment. Pretty sure that was less than 5 minutes, Alex.
Definitely less than 5 minutes for sure. I absolutely love how fast teams can build their own detections, go from an idea or of a detection that they need or a requirement that they need and into, bring it to life in less than obviously 5 minutes. But you can obviously build your own, but I also love that you can tweak any of the pre-built threat identifiers that we have in our armory. We have thousands of them that they can just choose any of the ones, get inspo from, modify, built on top of, right? Clone. Each one of those that we have there are available in all of the flavors that we support, right? All available for Databricks.
Yeah, good point. Let's take a look at one that we've already got in the system. So here's one that is specifically designed to look for user account deletion on Mac platforms.
Oh, which is huge because the Mac OS detection content is seriously lacking in our space. So love that we've got that, and you can see here all the flavors that we support. But if you pop open the Databricks one, want to really call out some of the key features from our detection as code module, right? As I love to call it. This is going to be game changer, especially when it comes to managing your detections and making it in a scalable, systematic way to do that, making it easier to do, especially as your detection logic evolves, because it's going to, right? You're going to want to keep complete control and track of every change that's going to be introduced in the organization, right? Every payload change, every new property modification, every new requirement of your rule that you need to update, right? We've got you completely covered with the complete control of that detection logic, but also the complete full version history, right? Of who changed what and why as those versions evolved. And you can even see side by side, right, the evolution of that, what was changed in red and green and who changed it, right, over time. And also, I think the best part of it, because of the iterative nature of what detection building is and the detection management lifecycle and how painfully manual it is, I love that you can test as you build, right? You have so much freedom, like from, yeah, just that test button right there. You have so much freedom to test new ideas, try them out, tweak them, move faster without any kind of guesswork, right? That used to take hours and hours of manual work. So absolutely love this detection as code module. I've yet to see anything like it, especially when from a decentralized view, right, across all of your different data platforms, pockets of data that you may have that you want to deploy a detection on.
Yep. There's a lot of other features here too. Probably don't have time to walk through all of them, but this will have things like examples out of the box. We almost always include examples of what this would actually look like on a client system, maybe links to references about this particular kind of attack. We'll have analytics that'll tell you things like how often this rule is matching, how often it's considered false positive or not. You can put other tags on it that you can use in threat scenarios, which we'll talk about in a second. And even triage steps, if you want to put a playbook for your analyst to understand what to do when they see an event like this, you can put that there. You can include markdown, you can include links. It's a very, very robust feature set around the threat indicators.
Would take any help and guidance that I can get. So absolutely love this. If you go back up then to show folks this feature set, building these kind of detections right at the atomic level, right? And of course, it's all proficient in MITRE, right? All of that metadata that's enriched in what these detections are. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the consequences of that, right? Deploying a lot of these atomic behaviors at scale, right? It can get pretty noisy pretty quickly if you're just getting alerted on every single Mac OS account, change, right? And so that gets me thinking about alert volumes and obviously false positives. Despite all this innovation that we've seen in the security space, we're still dealing with false positives, right? So obviously they overwhelm the SOC and they overwhelm our SOAR platforms. Take us through, how we're addressing this problem, how we're rethinking the approach to smarter detections, right? Leveraging a lot of these threat identifiers or threat indicators in warn mode, but how we can create more of a correlated narrative.
Yeah, exactly. That's where threat scenarios come into play. So why don't we look at one and it'll help me explain what I'm talking about. So this is our entire catalog. Let's narrow it down. How about privilege escalation? And let's pick this one. That's a good one. Okay, so this particular threat scenario is focusing on EDR bypass attacks. Threat scenarios are looking for a series of events correlated across a single entity. So in this case, working with some particular host. Each step in the scenario is looking for one or more events to happen in a series. So in this particular case, you can AND them and OR them together. You can use specific threat identifiers, or you can use tags from threat identifiers. So look, for example, the MITRE attack technique that the threat identifier represents, right? And you can look for a certain number of events to occur. You can look for events to occur within a certain time frame of each other. So this is very robust, and you can use a lot of different buttons and knobs here to get exactly what you want out of it. In this scenario, we're looking for one of these events to occur. And again, these are generic MITRE ATT&CK events and not specifically any identifier. It'll tell you what identifiers match, followed by any one of these two, followed by any one of these three. And if you see all of those things happen, then we throw a very robust high fidelity alert for you to investigate, rather than you having to investigate every single potentially suspicious thing that happens in your environment. That really cuts down on the alert fatigue, the false positives, things like that. And using these tags instead of specific threat identifiers is a really great way to be more efficient, just like I was showing you with the macros. This way you can add and remove rules, threat identifiers, without having to change the threat scenarios, because it's looking at the attributes of those rules rather than the specific list of rules. So that makes it much more flexible as well. And also, just like with threat identifiers, there's additional information attached. So, you've got tags and other rule information analytics. We even include threat examples. So like here, for example, we've got a diagram from the Unit 42 threat intelligence team that kind of helps people understand what the attack is all about.
Yeah, where it was inspired from. I love that you're getting, all this attack essentially, right? And the many different combinations that the attack can go in, right? That is going to be key for high fidelity, right? Greater accuracy with the kind of level of sequencing that we're able to correlate from, right? That Boolean logic and or conditions. We don't want to be notified every single time an RDP happens, or some connection is established, or a suspicious script is created. That's just going to overwhelm the SOAR, but rather the combination of these multiple different behaviors correlated upon a host, right? So you can understand what a user is doing across many different MITRE techniques. That's just got a whole lot more interesting, right? And also security teams, I'm just going to stress this again, like the security teams don't have to be advanced in what Databricks has SQL, right? They don't have to be a SQL expert to be able to bring this idea to life, right? Doesn't have to take days and weeks and months. It can take a couple minutes, right? Absolutely love it. So obviously the entire market is talking about agentic AI and workflows, and what is happening with AI there. We are applying AI in obviously the most fastest growing field in security, which is the most impactful as well, right? Detection engineering, many different areas within that can really make a real impact when done. And I want to kind of show our listeners what we're doing in the space, how we're rethinking alert tuning, how we're rethinking pipeline optimization, how we're rethinking broken integrations, right? From the State of Detection Engineering report, which if you haven't seen, I'll also link it in the chat. 56% of teams indicated that they're tuning their detections on a daily and even weekly basis. Yet it's the activity that they reported to beat, like they hated doing the most. So that kind of really sucks if you're spending so much time doing something you hate. So obviously leaning into redirecting it to computing and having AI take up a lot of that grunt work is where we're headed with that. So why don't we pivot on over to that?
Sure. We talked about some of the shortcomings of SIM earlier, and another big one is the overpromising and under-delivering on AI. I mean, security analysts need more than a chatbot. Chatbot's great, but it needs more than that. So Anvilogic is driving a lot of innovation in this space. For example, every single day on your Anvilogic homepage, you're going to get recommendations for improving your environment. And those are powered by our AI and our team of threat researchers. So Insights is a great example. We have 3 different kinds of insights. We have health insights. These give you recommendations to help make sure that everything in your environment is functioning properly. So it's looking for things like logs that have stopped generating new data or rules that are failing to run. This way you'll be notified if you've got some kind of silent gap in your detection. We've got tuning insights. This is what you were just talking about. So these are ways to improve your rules. So our machine learning system can find noisy rules that are generating a lot of false positives and give you the steps to suppress the noise without losing the true positives out of it. Best yet, you can implement the steps with a single click, like we looked at before with the deployment, saving you hours of manual troubleshooting and parsing. We've had customers reduce the number of false positives by 98% by utilizing tuning insights. Finally, we've got hunting insights. Hunting insights identify vulnerabilities, first seen events, or extremely rare events lurking in your data that can be easily missed, even if you don't have threat scenarios covering the events in question. So you might have events of interest happening that you're ignoring because you're really focused on the threat scenarios, but maybe you don't have good coverage for something for a threat scenario. And that's what these are designed to do. These will include recommendations. So let's take a look at one here. These will include recommendations for what to do next. And that way your team can respond quickly. You can open an investigation. You can escalate immediately to an incident. You can even dismiss it as a false positive. And the system will take that into account going forward in the future. We also recommend individual detections that should be deployed that currently aren't. And on top of that, the Forge team is constantly sharing actionable interests with you. So, and in this case, what does actionable really mean? Let's take a look at one of these. So, of course, you get the big info dump of all the data, what's going on, right? And this is really important, and you really want to know what's going on. But you always have those age-old questions. Does this apply to us? Do we have detections for this? And we answer those questions as well. So, look, if you look at the left here, you can see this does apply to you, and you are only partially covered. You've got 13 identifiers deployed, but there's a bunch of other content that you don't have deployed. So we make it easy to do that. Again, single button click, hit deploy. Those all go live in your environment. And we only recommend the things that align to your environment, right? So we're only looking for, we want to make sure that the threat scenarios for identifiers we're deploying match your log sources and things like that. We're not just going to deploy stuff because it's in the catalog.
So daily recommendations, right? Right on your homepage, not just helping you build better alerts, but also kind of tuning the alerts that we are generating, right? We're keeping those volumes under control, ensuring that those detections stay in top-notch shape, right? And on this note, sorry, I'm getting distracted with the Blackbuster GPT. This is, I mean, this is like fresh off like the press. We're super recent with our threat detection content and library, and then of course lining up the Anvilogic detections of the observed behaviors of these threat reports. But this partial coverage, right? You get a quick check on if you're partially covered because of those detections that are active or not. Like, how is it that we know what to recommend, right, in the first place?
Yeah, when you first deploy Anvilogic, we work with you to customize your priorities with the product. And of course, you can update those over time. But those include things like data points. Those include data points like what platforms you have. Do you have Mac or Windows or Linux? Do you have containers? What kind of cloud environments do you run in? It also includes data points that are customized for your market vertical. So, for example, some threat groups and attack types are focused on banks, ATM machines specifically, and you want to focus on those because that's what you are. Or maybe you're not a bank, and so you don't want to focus on those. You can even tell us what MITRE techniques you want to focus on if you have preferences there, and you can even add custom values for all of these things. So if you have a specific application you want to focus on, you can do that. And that's not to say that we'll ignore the items that you don't focus on, but it will help us in our AI better understand what areas are most important for you and recommend the right things for you to look at. And these customization settings, they don't apply just to the recommendations and other things. They also apply to our maturity score and other metrics. The maturity score is a KPI that's constructed by looking at multiple things, including your data feed quality and content. Are you sending us data? Are we missing some data that's important for your preferences? Your deployed detections, do you have everything deployed that you could? Are you missing some things? And then what you're doing with those events that do get detected. Are you actually investigating them? Are you marking them as true positives or not? Things like that. So are you doing something with what you get? And this can help you track over time how well you're doing as a security organization.
I think that's one of the hardest things in detection engineering is just it's so notoriously difficult to track your progress, right? To track your priorities and reporting that up the chain, right? Translating the impact into a language that our executives understand. And with what you showed us, right, we can do that in such a data-driven way, right? It's because it's not just a technical function, right, that we do. It's a business enabler, right? And when done right, it can generate some real metrics and showcase the value, right? Help our teams assess their priorities, what's important, not only in their detection coverage, because obviously everyone can measure a MITRE technique coverage or not, right? But it's also like what you're doing against that alert data that are coming in, like it's real world And that helps you really understand your gaps and what you should be able to work towards. If you click on the feed, Peter, I love that we show you the actual missing data
Oh,
feed
mhm.
that could improve your coverage, right? The health of those coming in because they're feeding those rules directly, and that's just going to enhance and continue to, increase your maturity score trend. So absolutely love this.
Mhm. All right. Well, I could keep going with our other features, but Alex is virtually kicking me under the table that we're out of time. So I'll stop here and hand everything back to her.
Thank you. I'm going to steal the screen back from you. I think that was a fantastic demo. That was Peter's first time going through the demo. So congratulations, Peter. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. You guys were able to see the way that it's so clear as day to us how we're helping teams navigate some of the toughest challenges in detection engineering, some of the toughest bottlenecks in detection engineering with a sophisticated but yet easy to use, right, detection building and management platform and approach. And as far as this webinar, that's going to be a wrap. I know we're slightly over. Thank you guys for staying on. You can learn more about this super sick integration on our anvilogic.com landing page /Databricks, right? Book a demo with our team to get the more in-depth tour. And do join us every other week. We got a live show for you talking on all things detection engineering. Got a year's worth of planned webinars as we execute on our great roadmap here. So please join this detection engineering community. The next webinar that we also have in the lineup is an early adopter of this integration with our beloved and longtime customer, SAP, with Roland Costea. So if you want to hear about the benefits and the success of that deployment there, stay tuned for that. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Be sure to check out the links that we've been posting on in the chat. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.